Welcome and good evening. I am your host, Coach Erica Love, and I my breath is taken away. I just must be honest. My breath is taken away by the opportunity that I have to bring you my guest this evening.
Excuse
Now,
me, could
yes,
I take a bathroom break?
yes.
Thank you.
Oh my, hold on.
Huh?
It's live, but I'll go back to one screen. Hold on.
Okay.
I love it. But I'll go ahead and say it. So even our great leaders have to function in that way. But anyway, so I'm amazingly excited and really just tickle pink of just the humanity that he just showed us. But anyway, um, he is walking history. He is a firsthand witness to history. He is a interfaith expert. He is a community activist, and he is a current elected official. Um, and so I am just pleased and excited to bring you Imam Alfred Mohammed. And so, as you know, he's already taken a moment um, uh, to relieve himself. That's very interesting. But while he is away, I'm actually going to go ahead and bring up a video that I was going to play for him while he was here. But it's of one of his heroes. So we will go ahead and watch that video right now, and then we'll get back to our conversation with him. Hold on one moment. I'm going to get it started. Here we are.
The testimony before the Credentials Committee, the FDP had a lineup of very different people. They had Rita Schwerner, the widow of Mickey, who had been killed in Neshoba County. They had Martin Luther King, everybody knew King.
The seating of the delegation from the Mississippi Freedom Democratic Party has political and moral significance far beyond the borders of Mississippi or the halls of this convention.
But the highlight of the testimony was that of Fannie Lou Hamer, the sharecropper who had been evicted from her plantation, had come to symbolize the Mississippi movement.
Mr. Chairman, and to the Credentials Committee. It was the 31st of August in 1962 that 18 of us traveled 26 miles to the county courthouse in Indianola to try to register to become first-class citizens. We was met in Indianola by policemen.
The president, Lyndon Johnson, he's not afraid of Martin Luther King's testimony. He's afraid of Fannie Lou Hamer's testimony. And so he decides that the country should not see her testify live.
Johnson is in the White House, and he convened an impromptu press conference.
We will return to this scene in Atlantic City, but now we switch to the White House and NBC's Robert Goralski. Now, ladies and gentlemen, the President of the United States. On this day, 9 months ago,
he did it knowing that they would break away, thinking he might announce who his choice of vice president was going to be. Instead, he gets up there and he announces, get this, he announces that it's 9 months to the day since Governor Connolly, who was there, was shot along with President Kennedy. So he announced a 9-month anniversary. Everybody's scratching their heads.
thank you very much.
And then he leaves. And by that time, Fannie Lou Hamer's testimony was over. However, it backfired on Johnson because it became a story that she had been taken off television and in the news that night, and for days afterwards, they replayed her testimony.
I was carried to the county jail and put in the booking room. They left some of the people in the booking room and began to play something fair.
She had Mississippi in her bones. Martin Luther King or the SNCC field secretaries, they couldn't do what Fannie Lou Hamer did. They couldn't be a sharecropper and express what it meant, right? And that's what Fannie Lou Hamer did.
And it wasn't too long before 3 white men came to my cell. One of these men was State Highway Patrol. He said, "We're going to make you wish you was dead."
Hello. So thank you for watching that with me. I was going to share that with our audience a little bit later in the interview, but this, for such a time as this. And I wanted to share that video with you because I've heard you mention Fannie Lou Hamer so many times in your interviews, and I noticed that you admire her. And so tell me why.
Well, there is courage, then there's fearlessness, and then there's commitment, and then there's compassion.
Mm-hmm.
Courage, commitment, courage, compassion. And I actually sat at her feet for maybe, I was in a room with her in a whole gathering. She said, I was looking for a seat. She said, "Come and sit here." And I was like, squeezed in, and I sat next to her, and I felt her power. I mean, I probably have met most of the so-called people of the previous century.
Mm-hmm.
I now know why, but my younger children call me the Black Forrest Gump.
You are. You really are.
Her and Gwendolyn Brooks are 2 women I can say I sat at their feet. Both, they were speaking at living room gatherings, and I looked for a seat. Most people not know I'm a very shy person. I mean, you wouldn't know it. But both of those persons sensed that I was shy. And they should come. They knew I was not the kind of guy I was going to push through the crowd. I mean, there's a lot of people in movements that are very rude people. That's why I mentioned that they may be courageous, they may be conscientious, but they don't have any compassion for people. The movement becomes their life, and they don't think about it. And I met a lot of people. I mean, they were good people, but they were not people who really felt other people. And I can tell you that people like her, another person I met like that was Muhammad Ali. I spent about 6 months with him. And he was a person that it's really hard to be known. And I'm not well known, but I know people. Sometimes I'm at a big meeting, people come to me, and I always remember those people. What would they do?
Mm-hmm.
And I know that they just would come to a calm place in them. I know they had to be disturbed by people. I mean, people pushing you and this, that, the other thing. And I just, so I draw up on that. That was a very good way. And also to bring another dear friend of mine that was narrating that, Taylor Branch. I knew him. I know him, brother. I mean, I'm not very close with him, but I've met him on at least 4 or 5 occasions.
So I am so glad that you said that you're the Black Forrest Gump, but I think that you are a real life Forrest Gump, because Forrest Gump was a fictional character, and you've actually lived this life.
Yes, I have. I have, and only Coach Love. The only way I can explain it that God had His hands upon me. I I really felt early on a divine calling, and then I like, oh man, it's the last thing I wanted to do. And then I began, as I matured, I began to realize it is true. And I found out something. A very wise leader by the name of Imam Alfred Mohammed said, when you're going up, you would meet all the people coming down, the great leaders. You'll meet them. It's like a stair step. You're going up and they coming down. And what happened is, and that's what I try to do with young people, even some that I don't spot the great potential in them, but I inspire them because maybe that potential is hidden, and I try my best to bring it out of them. Because all throughout my life, I had all those kinds of people that really, in my early childhood, just really drilled in my head, you have a very special place. You're going to make our people very proud. You're going to be a great person. Well, you know, you pay some attention to it. Life deals you a lot of difficult hands. And anyway, let me shut up and let you interview me.
Well, you know what? Just like you said at the feet of great leaders, I know how to listen when I am at the foot of a great leader. So I welcome all the things you have to share. So let's just open it up a little bit. We've already started by saying that you're a real life Forrest Gump. Let's just tell everyone a little bit about why we might say that. I'll start off by saying that you got the opportunity to be underfoot with Dr. Martin Luther King Sr.
Yes, I did. I knew Dr. King Sr. I met him as a little boy. And some people say I'm not an easy person to forget. But I first met him when I was really a little boy. And I grew up in a town that was called Lynchburg, Virginia. Quite apropos, but there was a big seminary there where people came from all over the world. It was supposed to be the place where they taught preachers. In the original days, to give you a history, African Americans had Howard was at the time was the only accredited seminary. But in my hometown, there was the Virginia Seminary and College. And at the time that I was a young man, Vernon H.W.B. Johns was the president. And if you read Taylor Branch's book, he talks about him as the precursor to Dr. King. Vernon John, I met again as a child, and I met Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. And later on, I see him all the time. He'd come to New York. And then I ran into him one day and said, Dr. King, can I get a ride? Yeah, boy, come on, get in. You know, and we started talking. I told him, the first time I met you in Lynchburg, and we talked. He remembered. He said he remembered me. So I don't know. Okay. So you're a little bitty old thing when I first met you. Yeah, I have been in Dr. King's audience. Dr. King, that is Martin Luther King, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s audience. I never met him. Our eyes have met. But Dr. Benjamin Elijah Mays, who really, there wouldn't be a civil rights movement if it were not for Dr. Benjamin Elijah Mays. There's a book by Randall Jelks, a professor at the University of Kansas at Lawrence, has written a book called Benjamin Elijah Mays, the Schoolmaster of the Movement. And he's the one that laid the foundation for modern African American religion that took us out of the sky on the ground and laid the foundation. There wouldn't be a Dr. King. Dr. King, in fact, Dr. King's real ambition was to be the president of Morehouse. That was his ambition. And of course, we know what history did with that. Right. But Dr. Mays, those men, I met them. I met all the lieutenants of Dr. King, including James Bevel, Jesse Jackson, way before he was a preacher. And I must say this, I don't know what I should say, but I will say it. He was one of the least liked people by Dr. King. Dr. King was hard for somebody to get on his nerves. I often said that if you really want to study Dr. King, don't study him by his intellectual or rhetorical abilities.
Okay.
Study him by the fact that he had hit a motley crew of some people that was just downright almost insane. And it was very difficult to get on his nerves. Egotists, narcissists, all kinds of strange people. And the art of being a leader, if you can hold all those people together, it's like running a special ed class, because these are very talented people. The more talented they are, the more challenging they are. But Jesse Louis Jackson, before he was ordained, got on Dr. King's nerves. Dr. King actually told him, Jesse, you can go on about your business.
Wow. Wow.
And that's told in Taylor Branch's book, I think either volume 1 or 2 of The King Years, which is a classic of Dr. King's movie. I mean, it's probably the foremost book. And the first one is called Parting the Waters. No, and the second one is Pillow of Fire, and the third one is Canaan's Edge. And in one of those volumes, he mentions Dr. Reverend Jesse Louis Jackson. This part, continuing along with the Forrest Gump theme, I was walking down Lenox Avenue one day, and Reverend, let me call him by his title, because I believe in respect the title. He said, boy, what you doing up here? And my son Joe looked. Now Joe was at 17 at the time, 17 and 16. He says, Daddy, you know Jesse Jackson? And he said, boy, I know your daddy way before you know him. And I said, yeah. I said, yes, Jesse. He said, but where did we first meet at? I said, man, we met in Lynchburg in Virgil Wood's house. He said, Virgil's a good man to meet. He went on into Sylvia's to get him some chicken. Jesse. So I knew all those guys. I knew Ralph David, not Ralph David Abbott, whom was really one of my favorites. Also, C.T. Vivian, I knew quite well. But, I knew them all,
And what I love about you is that you are still active. Some people who were a part of that movement, they have stepped down or stepped back. But
many of them are burnt out. And the movement can burn you out.
Right.
Remember, you still have to, most of the people had to make a living. Most of them had familiar problems because you really had to know how to balance your own life, your family life. You may or may not have good spousal relationships. This is a very difficult thing to be dedicated to a cause. I tell people it's not easy being a father when you see yourself sort of like a father to millions of other people. Your children get irritated with you. You're traveling somewhere and somebody wants your attention. And I always reminded of the great preachers that always would stop to give people attention. Now, and this is something I know, a lesson from them. Somebody may be on the verge of suicide. You don't know where they're going through. And they want to stop and talk to you. And I always remember, I don't know what this person wants with me. And I always stop and see whether or not, even somebody on the street asks me for money. I don't generally give anybody money on the street. If I see a mentally ill person, I may just, and they don't usually ask, so I give to them because I know they need. They'll just look at it. But I always say to them, if there's money you need, I don't have any. But if you want prayer, let's pray right now. Or if I didn't think they were religious, let's do a visualization. But sometimes, probably the most religious of them is the guy who won't take it. That deep in his heart, he knows he's running the game. He knows he or she wants money for drugs or whatever. And they see your religious, your real spirituality, not the fake spirituality. I was just talking to Pentecostal people today about it. There's so many people in religion are just fake. They don't have anything besides trying to prove to you how holy they are. But that means they pay bills. They won't. Anyway.
You know what? That is the true sign of a Pharisee, right there. But I will hold off on the interfaith conversation just for a little bit because I want to talk with you about the effects of slavery that we're experiencing. But I think I want to start off. I heard you say the other day that there were approximately 500 Muslims that came over.
Well, actually, I had that figure wrong. There was more than that. Probably 80 to 90% of the people that came here came directly from Muslim-controlled lands.
Okay.
So the capture of West Africa, of what is called the Sahel, which was west of the Sahara Desert, all of those countries along that coast were Muslim-ruled countries. That doesn't mean everybody there were Muslims, but at least 40 to 60% of them had come from Muslim lands. And they left signs. One of the signs they left is at the Emmanuel AME Church in Charleston, South Carolina, where Bill and Ruth predicated his evil. At the cornerstone of that church is the star and crescent, which is a symbol of Islam. At Booker T. Washington's house, in the eve of Booker T. Washington's house, Booker T. Washington's real name was Abu Bakr, there is a star and crescent. And Booker T. Washington is an Igbo. At the time of slavery, most of the Igbos were Muslims. So there's a book by a man by the name of Phil Curtin. He was once a professor of mine. He hated me, and I probably hated him. He's dead now. But I was an African studies major, not African American studies, African studies. So I know a lot about West Africa. But anyway, suffice to say, most of them. Very few Christians were brought here because Christianity had only penetrated in the southeast of Africa as far as the Congo, and it was prohibitively expensive to transport people from the Congo. And the people in the Congo didn't make very good slaves anyway. And that number two, America had a rule not to capture Christians. They were supposed to free Christians.
I see. And so upon coming here, there was a stripping of identity, and religion is a part of people's identity.
Right.
And so there is a psychological and a spiritual aspect that is still echoing within America today. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, you have put it better than I could ever put it, but I can tell you that the African American, one of the reasons they call us soul brothers is because they've stripped us all the way down to our soul. The only thing we have left is that which God created in the human being, the soul. Now, the soul, as Aretha Franklin's father said, is very difficult to define. Aretha Franklin's father, Clarence Leroy Franklin, was a very brilliant man. And in the 23rd song, he said, he restores my soul. He said, the soul is very difficult to define. But we think of it as that spark of divinity. But in terms of culture, folkways, language, traditions, that was beaten out of us. Now, there is I would refer people to read a book by Melville Hershkovitz called The Myth of the Negro Past. And I would say into certain areas, there is more degrees. The people in South Carolina, the Sea Islands, places where Clarence Thomas came from, those people retain more of our cultural life. And if really examined, one would find that most of the progressive Negroes in New York City that own businesses are from South Carolina. They are the Geechee people or the Gula people. So they were able to retain a lot of our culture, and they were able to retain even a lot of that Islamic ideas. And in fact, there's a book written by a lady named Sivan Dio. She's not a Muslim, from Senegal, called Servants of Allah. And she traces the remnants of Islam among African Americans.
Okay. Okay. And so where does that put us in your mind as far as interfaith leadership today or interfaith connection today? Because obviously there is pain reverberating. Woo, I couldn't get that out. Throughout the American community, not just African American, not just Asian American, not just European American, but throughout the American community. And quite frankly, there's a pain throughout the world. People seem to be a bit more hostile, certainly less patient, certainly appealing to low vibration ideas, I would say.
Well, it is a direct result of what has happened in the Atlantic slave trade, which has never been resolved.
Okay.
And the first people that will have to resolve it is not this woke crowd, or not the people who want to have critical race theory, because they really, the people who got critical race theory are basically people with ideology. They really don't even believe in race. They are really mainly Marxist-Leninists. I mean, that's their idea. But there will never be any peace among the people of the world until the greatest problem in the world is solved, and that's the problem of the so-called Negro's psyche. Once his psyche is restored, he will restore the rest of the world. I'm just saying he or she, but we will restore the world. So there won't be any peace. So this vibration that we felt, this disturbance of snatching people away from their mother, causing them to have to walk, mothers to walk 800 miles through West Africa to the coast to be in the ship, that's in the psyche. And it has to be one of the things I would bring to your attention. I would ask you all to go to my Facebook page, and I should put up my, well, I don't know whether I can make a commercial appeal, but I should. I am planning to travel to the United States of America and to utilize my training in psychoanalysis. I now will be a first-year candidate in psychoanalysis.
So I'm planning to discuss your urban peace campaign and and the expansion of it, not just throughout America, but you'd like to take that to South Africa as well as England, correct?
Yes, that is correct. And it is somewhat, we're going to use a lot of psychodrama, a lot of psychological workshops, but we're going to ask people to claim that, to experience. You know, there are people who, transcendentalists, believe that you should just forget those things or just focus on a positive mind. No, it's in the psyche. It's almost like phlegm in the throat. It has to be expelled. It has to be secreted. And then it can be dealt with. It has to be in the air. So the pain, the rape, the murder, the homosexual assaults against African-American men by homosexual men who were slave masters, that has to be dealt with. The murder, the brutality, it has to be felt. Because if it's not felt and dealt with, it will cause one to act it out on oneself. And much of the mental health of the young lady that jumped over 64 stories, she had some connection to that pain. And some people can't bear it. They don't know where they're feeling this pain from. But Carl Jung, the great psychoanalyst and a man that believed fervently in God. Now, Jung said, I no longer believe in God. And I told my Sunday school teacher, Miss Penn, I no longer believe in God. I know in God. And I say this, that the spiritual connection, one can't really reach spirituality until we first arrest that which is bothering the human psyche. The human being is composed of mind, a body, mind, and spirit. The spirit,
Mhm.
I would say the soul, but this kind of pain and terror is in the even in the DNA and the RNA. They call it epigenetics. So until
Mhm.
we deal with that, it's virtually impossible to move on to other subjects.
So we have a series that we've been doing together, and it is the connection between race, rape, and religion.
Yes.
Um, can you?
Can you excuse me? I'm going to bring a book here. I have it. It's on
Okay,
my, it's right here. Okay, good.
aren't we fortunate?
There is something that has not been looked at. The name of the book is White Women, Black Men, Illicit Sex in the 19th Century South.
Okay, okay.
This is something that hasn't been looked at. Now, why do I bring this up? I was always told that some African Americans have been told that one of the most sympathetic people to African Americans is white women.
Mm-hmm.
And I often say, how could that be when they're the ones that raised these Caucasian men? I don't use the term white because
Okay.
white is a concept that they borrowed from the Indo-European language, which means purity. White is enlightenment, comes from the word enlightenment. Black
Mm-hmm.
means the natural. So I don't like to use these metaphysical loaded terms. And they're not white. I would say European, Caucasian, whatever. I like to use a scientific term. But anyway, that always been in. Rape has been there. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
people wonder. Well, there's a criminal defendant. He's not a defendant. He's a defendant in some states, and he's been convicted in one state. He'll remain nameless.
Mm-hmm.
But he happens to be his people descended from Mississippi. And a reporter asked me about him. I said, well, I will not discuss the particularities of the case. Because I
Mm-hmm.
have a great respect for the jury and I have a great respect for the legal system.
Mm-hmm.
But I can tell you that Chicago, most people in Chicago either had come out of Mississippi by the way of St. Louis, and they came from a culture of rape where
Mm-hmm.
Caucasian men, I would say white devils, because it takes a devil to go in someone's house and just sleep with their daughter at will. Or if a white woman decided she wanted a black man,
Mm-hmm.
she could have him. If her husband gave her permission, it would be nothing but beast-style pleasure.
Mm-hmm.
So we have been a victim as a people of rape culture. Now that culture permeates America. But I was told if you dig a ditch for your brother, you'll fall into it.
Well, that's very true. You said that really the world has taken the worst of the culture and it has become the pedagogy of the oppressed.
Yes, yes. Once we solve the problem of the African American solve his own problem.
Mm-hmm.
The African American, the real problem with African American, they're still looking for others to affirm and to solve that problem. They can't. They're too tied to it. All any Caucasian or other ethnic group can do is stand on the sideline and take their humanity and applaud us getting together. But to try to interfere in it, to try to heal it, it's just guilt and shame upon that part. And it would not work. And
Well,
I
I'm
don't
glad.
spend time trying to condemn other groups. I think the time is out for that. I think we've spent 60 years that started in 1930. Oh, that's good. By 1975, there's an old saying, the black flag doesn't even kill flies anymore. So no need of waving the flag and the black movement, all that stuff doesn't mean anything. It's time for us to go home, go inside and work to heal our own psyche.
So I want to talk about, because sometimes even people, foundational Black Americans don't really have a good understanding of what happened to us as a group of people, and why is it that there is so much pain within the family unit. So sometimes they simply don't understand that. But there are some facts, right? There are some facts that rape was used to control and break down the family unit.
Right.
And that was both um, male to male, male to female, and female to male.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
And therefore there's a tremendous shaming operation. Now, one asked the question, as you talk about this, we were forced to, as a part of breaking us, to practice incest.
Mm-hmm.
They used to make African Americans have sex with their mother. Thus, the word MF came into play.
Mm.
That word came into play because African Americans on the plantation, the slave masters, see, these were scientific people. I mean, the Willie Lynch thing is a myth. It doesn't really exist. It didn't
Mm-hmm.
exist. Nobody wrote like that. But you know, the old English, that's not really that language.
Mm-hmm.
But it is a metaphysical or metaphorical study of what slavery did. But it doesn't even go into the depth. People were raped. One of the first things they did when a person got on the ship was to take the lady who was the queen, bring her up on the deck,
Mm-hmm.
and perhaps even if she were ministrating,
Mm-hmm.
have one of the people who had been a governor to witness this, tie him up, and maybe make him do some disaster act, or perhaps tie him up
Mm-hmm.
and rape him on the ship. So this man is so broken, so ashamed. Either he commits suicide or he submit. But let me tell you something. And that's why any of you all know this Negro economist. His name is Claude Anderson. You tell him that Imam Alfred Mohammed wants to debate with him because he's a liar.
Ah.
He said that African Americans didn't resist. And he doesn't know what the hell he's talking about. He's causing great psychic pain for African Americans. Africans in the Americas resisted from the time they got on the ship. Some of them actually committed suicide and jumped with chains.
Mm-hmm.
They did all kinds of resistance. So Dr. Claude Anderson, I don't know what his purpose is, but he is a disaster to our people. And I would love to have a public debate with him. We don't need people telling us that. We resisted throughout slavery.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. You know what? There might be someone watching us that could help set up that debate. And so if you're out there, please.
That's why I did. I know he's a big hero. And frankly, I think he's a big phony.
Mm-hmm.
Because the economy means that you have developed a group of people. And to my knowledge, all he's done is sold books. So
there is a challenge for people to understand that it is affecting people now. There are honestly and truly people living whose parents were still slaves. And I say that there was a news report today. Now, this gentleman is old, and his father did father him when he was older himself. So his father fathered him when he was 70 years old, but his father was still a slave. He was born a slave. And here he is a man of a certain age now. But the fact of the matter is, he is literally one generation, not two, one generation removed from slavery.
I am too.
Okay.
I was talking to her, a sister of mine. She didn't know what she was talking about, in case she's listening. My grandmother was a slave,
I see.
born and raised in Appomattox County, 1863. I have to look up the census. This stuff is all public information, but she was born in slavery. So I knew her. And so there are people living today that's directly connected. And so very few of us are 3 generations removed. Very, very few. My father if he'd been living, was born in 1898. So he was about 35 years removed from the end of slavery. So it's fresh in us, and we're in denial, and we're ashamed of it. There's another psychologist named John Bradshaw wrote a book called Healing the Shame That Binds You. And he talks about that. And he talks also about family systems. So one of the things that's happened to us, we're ashamed. That's why African Americans always tell you they're American, Indian, they tell everybody about themselves, because they're ashamed of being an African American. We have to take pride in that. And really, to be honest with you, this really makes us a super people, not because of just our inherentness, but the fact that we have undergone the worst treatment known to people, and most of us are not monsters. I always have a saying. I walk the street and somebody asks, "How you doing?" I said, "Great, thank God to be alive in some degree of sanity." And a lawyer said to me, he said, "Well, speak about your life, but let somebody else certify your sanity." But I often said, if you know what I've gone through, it's lucky that I am partially sane. I don't claim total sanity. And that I can say, I know where I'm at. I know where, I certainly don't know where I'm going, but I know that's one of the things you ask a patient is, do you know where you are? Do you know who the president of the United States is? And a couple other questions, But I think that we have a right. We have a right and a responsibility to heal. We don't have a right to torture other people with our experience.
So it is time that we started to heal. It is time that we stop running away from mental health development. And I want to go to one of the questions that the audience had. Bradford White says, who would be the participants of the analyzation?
Well, it would be anyone who, I think people really would have to be trained. I mean, I have spent 30 years, first of all, to be psychoanalyst, the person should have gone through 30 years. They should have gone through some analysis themselves. But number two, any good person, now what you call lay therapists, the main thing for a person to do to help heal others is to listen. Now, let me tell you what listening is. It is very difficult, because you listen to somebody who had the same experience you have. You have to tuck your hands in your lap. And in Islam, there's a meditation called dhikr, or what other faiths have meditation, but you would have to meditate as you take in that energy. Somebody that might be very angry, and one has an anger issue and rage, and you've grown up in a home of rage, it's going to be very difficult for you to tolerate that. But the way that person will be healed is your ability to listen and not make comments. Now, these recovery groups like NAAA, they tell people, learn to listen and listen to learn. And they won't allow any crosstalk. The person that's set up and tell that story of what they call qualifying themselves, and they would tell their lies. They said, don't listen, don't look for the particulars, identify with the feelings. So vicariously, now that's what you call lay groups, and I think I know how to formulate them. But then there are those who I think the most effective therapy is psychoanalysis. And I will admit I've been in psychoanalysis. One time I was looking at this lady for being a wife. I said, well, you know, I am in psychoanalysis. She said, what the hell I'm talking? Why you been in therapy? What are you done? You been 20 years.
Well, therapy is good. Now, Bradford, he's actually a psychologist, and he's using a term, psychodrama. I am not familiar with that term.
I think, Bradford, you are on to something, and we will use, you know, we already do a lot of psychodrama, but I mean, you taught me formal psychodrama, and I'm for psychodrama. There is what is called body-centered therapy. I'm interested in anything that heals us. But,
Okay.
you know, much of our music, much of our gospel music, one of the reasons we put so much emphasis on the Jesus Christ, it really is our story.
Mm-hmm.
We were nailed to the cross. We were put to our thinking. So we are really basically what we're doing is every time we heard the Jesus crucifixion story, and you know, of course, preachers tell you, you haven't preached until you preach to the cross. Well, African Americans have hung on the cross, they've been in the cross, they've been in the crossfire. So it's very easy to see why we're at the cross. I think it's time to take us off the cross and put us into a crown. Now, remember, the scripture says, one of the best singers I heard is Yolanda Adams sings a song called I Wear a Crown. But they say, I would exchange that cross for a starry crown. So I think we have to go to crown. And this is one of the huge issues for us. We don't feel, and again, that's why any of y'all know Claude Anderson, tell him I'm ready for a public debate. We have to.
You know what? You might get your wish. You might get your wish. I said you might get your wish.
I don't think he want any parts of me, but I would ask him to be. Now, see, there are several people running around the country, and all they do is take advantage of our people. And I consider Anderson to be one of those people. And I'm hard on him because of the fact that we have to know we have overcome. We have accomplished. Here's what I say about us as a people. I give us an A for surviving the most horrific treatment known to man. Nobody, I'm not here to debate it either. No people have ever undergone what we have undergone. And I give the Caucasian an A for the white devil system. I'm not going to say all white people. They didn't, but no, we know there were a lot of them that fought this. But the devil system, and anybody go out here and said, I call white folks the devil, is a liar and is not listening. Because I heard someone on one of these broadcasts, somebody said something I never said. Well, let me just tell you, you're projecting what you were saying. But anyway, but I give the Caucasian, the devil system an A for the most destructive system known to the human being. And I give us an A for surviving it. And doctor, I give us an incomplete for healing. Because let me tell you something, if we were healing, we would have almost zero rapes in our community. We'd have almost zero incest in our community, and it's very high. And we would have almost zero murder in our community. And I believe if God spares my life and I get 10 good years with the energy I got, I'm going to drive the murder rate among us down to all negligible.
You want to know what? You do have a lot of energy because you told me about your day and I was tired. You told me about you do a lot with connecting with people. You do a lot with advocating for people, and you have several things in the works that are extremely powerful. And so I cannot wait to see what comes of all the work that you are doing. Absolutely.
Well, I thank you, and I accept it. And it's good to be encouraged because just before I came here, I was very, very frustrated because, in doing this work is a thankless work. You have to do it for God's sake. And you have people who always bring expenses to you, but never bring any way how to, like I said, I have a GoFundMe page. I hate to have to advertise, but the work I do costs money. You know,
I'll drop it in. I'll drop your GoFundMe page in, because I mean, do you mind if I talk about some of your advocacy work? Or
I would not mind at all. And that'll give me a chance to rest while you talk about it.
If we talk about some of your advocacy work, so I will just say that you are working on several campaigns to free those who have been locked up unjustly, and you have actually poured yourself into it and taken the bull by the horns and use your connections. Use your connection all the way up before, I'll say before and domestic, to highlight very heart-wrenching and heartbreaking situations. I'm not quite sure how much I can reveal, so I'll just say it like that. But I will say your advocacy work does need to be funded.
Yes, I am, and I'm working on several cases. One is to living people, I would say, but I'm also working on a couple of people who were killed outside these United States. That I'm planning to put pressure on those particular governments. African Americans, I know we probably reached some people overseas. You all, I have told you before on a few other programs, that you all have to be organized. We need a national, and I'm going to help organize this. We need to be organized as a people. That's why we're suffering so much. Because if you're not organized, you're going to be, others going to use your disorganization to destroy you. And that's why I'm so involved in episodic issues. I mean, these issues I'm involved with, I mean, I was up at 5 o'clock in the morning with the program. I was on a radio program this morning. I think about 500,000 people. Yesterday I was on a television program with an advocacy. I will just say, one of my priorities, so I may as well be to talk about it. My priority right now, one of the biggest cases I'm advocating for, is the Stevenson brothers that are in Ecuador being held illegally. And I say to the president of Ecuador, get some courage. I said to the United States Senate, get some courage. I said to the House of Representatives, get some courage and insist that the Stevenson brothers be freed. One of them right now is suffering from stage 4 colon cancer as a result of the neglect by the Ecuadorian authority. And the only reason they're in jail is because of the racist, anti-Black attitude of the Ecuadorian government. And I say that.
First,
I'm going to tell you, Ecuador, I will put picket lines around your embassies all over the world. So I'm not threatening you. I'm growing in influence. I told the United States Senator that. I said, now I'm going to tell you something. Virgin May Desmond's board is nobody to play with. I'm a very tenacious person, and I don't stop until what God has given me as a goal is accomplished. I don't do this for my own glory, because God knows if it was my glory, I'd be in some country chilling with mint tea right now, writing a great novel. I love what, and as a part of my liberation, one of the first persons I read was James Baldwin. After reading Freud, I'm studying tonight. When I finish, I got to still go to school tonight. Not go to school. I got to get prepared for a class. I'm a doctoral student at the University of Chicago, so I have a busy life.
Yes. Look, like I said the other day, you told me about your day. I was like, oh my goodness. But I want to get back to the Stevenson brothers. I want to establish for the audience and let them clearly understand these are American citizens.
Right.
These are well-educated young men
who had money, who bought a property that's worth $1 million. And when I spoke with someone who was in the high rankings, he doesn't know that, in the high rankings of the Well, why don't they just sell it? The property is worth $1 million. They have improved this property. It is a nice property. It's an eco-travel. They were getting ready to do agriculture. And you know what? All you love Native Americans, I do too. But not all Native people are good. You know, and I you know, well, anyway, let me not go into that one. But let me just tell you this. It was the indigenous people that actually want to shake this family down. And from the beginning, they wanted $1 million. Now these young men languished and 28 years, 33 years in jail. And you all, who some of you have been to jail, visited jail, worked in jail, you don't know what jails are till you go to those places. The guards don't come inside of the jails. The jails are ran by the inmates. People got AK-47 ballistic missiles and everything inside the cell. Locked. The gangs run the jail. I think in September, over 200 people were slaughtered at the jails there. And the 6 months prior to that, right where one of the Stevenson Brothers was, about 200 people were killed.
And so it's amazing that they've been able to live through this. And one of the brothers actually has contracted TB.
Yeah, that's the one who has cancer. He contracted, first he developed colon cancer because they wouldn't take him to the hospital, and probably something in the water caused this colon cancer. And remember, he was complaining of pain for about a year. And by the time he reached the hospital, he was at stage 4 cancer. All right. Wow. While in the hospital, see, God bless America. We don't know how fortunate we are in America. Bad as our condition is, it is not as horrific as in these other countries. Let me tell you something. God bless the USA. We have made it. And when I say God bless the USA, we made this country great. So ain't nobody, we ain't got no reason to back down. Oh, America. No, you made it.
I'm a foundational Black American. My people have been, my people built this country, so I am very proud.
Yeah, that's right. That's exactly right. You look at the Capitol, see them brothers building the Capitol. My uncle, McKinley Booker, born on the Booker plantation, fought in World War I. I had another uncle that fought in the Spanish-American War. Another brothers fought in World War II. You know, I was a veteran. So this is my country. So I'm talking about making America real. So, you know, a lot of us, well, anyway, I let me calm down a moment, but I'm just telling you. And that's why we demand of the American government. I've been on the phone for about an hour or two. And I'm really getting sick of that. We got to ramp up the pressure. I would urge everybody to write U.S. Senator Menendez. He is the chairman of the Foreign Relations Committee. If he made a call to President Lazo, tomorrow morning those young men would be out. The number 2 person is to write a letter to Greg Meeks. He's an African American. He's the chairman of the House Foreign Relations Committee. If he made a call, I'm sure President Lazo would let him go. I've heard this from inside the president's office. You know, you never know what a Negro knows. They said a Negro may be sweeping a broom, using a broom or a mop, and he may overheard something. But I have friends in high places, and someone who in the party, actually I ran into a guy in the lift. That's where you from, Ecuador? He said, yeah. He happened to know. He knew about the case. And then I ran into somebody, I'm going to disguise the way I know him from. But he told me, he raised money for President Lazo. And so they know about it. But they have that indigenous population, they have that population, and those countries, the Africans in those countries are treated like animals. You all don't really realize how blessed we are. As bad, we really beat the white man off of us. I mean, really, all we got to do is claim our own. As you said, foundational African American. All we got to do is claim it. We done beat them all. Look, everybody else got inspired to fight colonialism and slavery from us. So actually, the whole world owes us a debt. I'm not ashamed to ask for them to pay it.
Well, the reality is freedom isn't free. Freedom is not free. And I am proud to be an American every day, all day.
And let me tell you, when you go outside of this country, and when you heard them saying you have re-entered the United States with all of its warts, with all its broken toes, you thank God when you come, if you're coming in from Europe at Bangor, Maine, and say you've entered the United States of America, at least you got a shot. That's all America. And some places you don't even have a shot. And blacks in some of the countries in Latin America, all they can do is carry the dead. And they're garbage sweepers. So we have an obligation as African and in the American, foundational American, to assert our rights and responsibility. Our rights and responsibility to support our own organizations. We have a right and responsibility. That's why I'm saying they go right. I'm sick and tired of hearing African Americans say they don't vote. Next time one of them say that to me, I may have a squad of former FY, they may slap them. But I'm serious. I feel angry when I see an African. I said it to Peter Fatty Luheimer. That lady's almost, her kidney was beaten out. You tell me you ain't gonna vote?
And she did that so that we would have the right to vote.
Right. Right, exactly.
I'm taking a look at the side chat, and what you just said actually was echoed earlier, that not only do we have a right, we have a responsibility to take care of our mental health and to heal. We have to realize that we are free to do so. We have to remove the imaginary chains from our hearts, our heads, and our souls. If you chain, so many people know this, but it's worth saying, if you chain an elephant when the elephant is very young, when it is not strong enough to free itself, it will stay stuck in that position. But we have to get beyond that animalistic.
That's what Carter G. Woodson said. He said, Negro, he doesn't have a back door. He will create a side door. And that's why when you go to colleges, you see the African American all segregated in the campus, usually playing bidwits and talking trash. Whatever campus they're on, particularly at the PWIAs.
I think that what I'm saying is we have to get beyond that. Yes. We have to get beyond the confines of yesterday. And we have to realize the freedom of today.
Yes.
The internet is a explosion, and you can use it to level the playing field.
Yes.
That's one reason why we really do have to get internet connection in the rural areas as well as the urban areas. Everyone should have access to powerful internet, and someone may think that's just a luxury, but quite frankly, it is the door to information. As many libraries as you can build, there is a multitude of libraries by having access to high-speed internet.
I would never know you. I would never known about the Stevenson case had I not turned on the internet, and it grabbed me. on YouTube, and I got to give credit to what credit is due. DC Born Rob. I just wanted some fun that day. I like his handle. I don't know if some of you all are familiar with him. I used to watch him all the time. I first started following the Timothy Reed case. But I just let me watch him. And he always said, "This is DC born Rob Christian." I answer to them all. Good morning, good evening, wherever you might be. And that
Okay.
then Father's Day 2020, that's when the Stevenson brothers, those four young men, those courageous young men, appeared on the screen, and that case just grabbed me. And I said,
Mm-hmm.
I wrote DC Born Rob, and he had a research, and he reached out to me, and I said, look, and it's been with me ever since. And I'll be on the radio. I'll be on some radio station. Let me see. Tomorrow morning, I would be on the Larry Young Show.
Okay.
On I don't know. I think it's 1010 in Baltimore, but you can get it. You all Google it, Larry Young Show. I'll be on tomorrow discussing that case along with a lawyer who is actually the lawyer. But see, as I was saying, another person was saying to me, see, young people, people have to have, it's not necessary just to have a lawyer. You need an advocate. And I've taken on the role of being an advocate for this case. And there are places I can get that even some lawyers can't get because they don't have the access. So as an imam and also as an elected official, I wear my little pen and I get some places that the other people may not can get.
Well, it really is a urgent matter. The Stevenson case is actually a case of life and death.
Yeah.
Because one of the boys, like we said, he has colon cancer. He's now been stricken with TB. And the father is over there, and he's actually paying for his care out of his own pocket.
The real blessing of these young men is that they have a father who has resources. Otherwise, these young men would be dead. And I suspect there are quite a few Americans in jail. I mean, I just read about an American was held in Kuwait or in Saudi, one of those countries, for 90 days. Well, if you all support me, in addition to this urban peace ministry, we're going to work. Because you know what? Let me just tell you all this. I have picked up the work of Dr. King. I don't have a process. I don't have a lot of money. I don't have a lot of glib. I depend on people's support. And very shortly, we will have, actually, you can go to Imam Alfred on what's this Cash App.
Oh,
Cash App. Cash App, Imam Alfred Mohammed Ministries. Donate to me, or you could send your donation. But very soon, I'm waiting for the lawyer to send me my incorporation papers, so it'll be 501c3. But or we will leave it in the chat, the GoFundMe page. So those who have donations, it really would help us because it costs money. Costs money to travel. I've been fronting this money out of my pocket, and the pockets are getting low. I get a little angry there. Damn, I'm spending a lot of money. And you get this, but I'm not going to let that go because I know there are good people out here that will help me.
Yes. And the Stevenson brothers really do need you, along with other people that you've been helping in your advocacy work.
Yes.
They really do need you. Can you do me a favor and just share a little bit about the Urban Peace campaign and your plan to take it not just across America, but to Europe and South Africa?
Yes. The Urban Peace Ministry is a ministry where we are going to ask, starting here in America, 2 million men, because primarily it's men that kill each other. But women, Sister Keisha will get her shot too, to sign a peace treaty. And there are 3 fundamental things that really stop peace. I have worked with a lot of violence just in most of my life. Most of it's centered around someone sleeping with someone's woman. Really, that's the biggest one. Number 2, just looking at somebody run. Funny, but most of it's women, sex, power. And that's what dissing people. Wild animals, if you look at a bear, he will kill you. You cannot stare down with that. And that's where they have reduced us. You have to almost avert your eyes. So we're going to go around the country teaching, rallies, speaking. We're planning to pick out a day out of a week, probably on a Saturday, and march through every neighborhood. And we're going to find some poster girls or poster boys for rape victims, and we're going to put pressure until we catch these criminals. Now, let me just tell you all something that I think is important. Well, we finally reached a world record on the bad side. The most prolific serial killer was not Caucasian. It was an African American, and his name was maybe God don't want me to mention his name, but let's see. It'll come back to me. He just died.
Oh, okay.
But he should have been killed. He killed over 100 people. But here's what he said. He said, I can go into a neighborhood, he told the interviewer, a Caucasian interviewer, and kill people and nobody would ever know. You know, he goes into a low-income area, nobody would pick you. What's his name? I guess God don't want me to give him his notoriety because he bragged on it. And I thought he should have been taken out and killed. I'm for the death penalty in some cases. Serial killers, people killed for a thrill. If we are convinced that they did them, and there's no doubt about it, he admitted to it. He should have still been killed.
Wow. Wow. So my last question to you is this. What should we be doing so that we can stand up to the standards of our ancestors?
We should start healing groups wherever we are in groups of 5. At least 5 of us together. And we should put our hands in our lap so we don't talk and just listen to each other and hurt each other's pain and commit to the fact that we are going to heal. And we eventually, that energy level will bring you together with people like myself and others. Because there are many of us like this. I go into barbershop. You know, that's why I know this movement is real. Because I go into barbershops, beauty shops all over the United States. And I ask people, sometimes I just stop randomly on the street in dangerous neighborhoods. People are really terrified to go. I had a guy driving me. He said, I wouldn't stop in that neighborhood. I said, yeah, okay. If God want me to die, I'll die. But I know these guys. I know how to die. So I stop and say, guys, I need 5 minutes of your time. And now that they know they're not getting arrested, I said, what do you think is the most pressing issue faced now, people? And you know what? Man to man is us killing us. Anywhere, ask that question anywhere near a Martin Luther King Boulevard, anywhere in the United States. And somebody would tell you it's us killing us. So that's the pressing issue. I mean, it's not voter rights, it's not any of that stuff. You know, we won't even have voters' rights. We keep killing each other because we won't be around. And you know what? What drives, and I've worked with police, I've been in corrections. You know what they say?
What?
Well, what difference is it about them killing? They don't care. So if we present that ugly picture to the world, the African-American criminal, the person that kills his own people, is the one that's given invitations for others to kill us. That's why Ken killing Ken invite the Ku Klux Klan. And the reason I use that term, because really they have become the Klan. They're urban terrorists. They're terrorizing people with their guns and their violence. And many of our people, there's somebody right now in the United States in one of our neighborhoods that some senior citizen can't get out of their house because some young boys have moved in and took her household. It happens.
Wow. Wow. I just cannot tell you how thrilled I am personally that I got to be on your real life Forrest Gump journey. I am absolutely.
I'm honored, Coach Love, and continue coaching Love. And to the doctor, with the psychologist, doctor, we got a lot of patients out here. So you'll never be broke.
My goodness, my goodness. There was a lot of side chat. I'll put some of it up as we exit.
Let me see. We almost at the 11 o'clock mark. Well, we've been talking that long. Well, we may
Yes,
go 10 more minutes.
Look, sounds good. Look, I'll keep you up. I will keep you.
Shoot me some questions. Y'all already got me wired up anyway. I might get some peppermint tea, some kind of calming tea to calm down. My cortisols are up. So 10 minutes of questions from the audience.
Okay, 10 more minutes. 10 more minutes. I appreciate you and I thank you for that. Let me ask you this. If we're going to gather in groups of 5, right, and we're going to, start these sessions, you want to surround the work around men. Is that correct?
No, I would say men, but I would say other people. Look, all of us are in pain. I think it's better to have all the same gender.
Okay.
Because what happens is people play for the choir. Women, mix men and women together, they are generally at A, and then they say men with the men and women with the women for obvious reasons. But I think that's a good thing. I think 5 women gather together and they must agree that they will shut up and listen to each other. Period. And then we're going to eventually develop where we're going to have a contract. And we're going to ask people to invoke the curse of God if they reveal secrets. That's another problem for us. It's a big problem.
Yeah.
That's a big problem. If I tell you something, I always tell people, don't tell me nothing illegal. There you have to go to lawyers, priests. I can hear it as a minister. I can hear those things because I'm sort of indemnified. But other people, self-help groups, you can't talk about things you've done illegal because you would just say the things I can't talk about. But other than that, people should be able to talk. That will be healing. People walk around with a lot of shame. There are a lot of men walking around who have been molested by men. There are women who are ashamed to talk. They've been molested by women. There are people walking around today who've been molested by their own mother or father. It happens. People talk about toxic masculinity. There's toxic femininity too. Human beings.
Yeah. There is certainly there is toxicity in humanity, but it is acted out very differently based off of your gender.
Yes.
And I talk about masculinity a lot, but I talk about positive masculinity. And so I'm going to ask you, what are the characteristics of a man, a true man?
A true man, first and foremost, is a compassionate man that had a good relationship with his mother, or seeks to have a good relationship with the mother. Because all we really are is in the search. And that's why people say, "I thank God, I thank my mama." But really, what has happened is we should be. That's a healthy relationship. Number 2, we're physically built differently. And there are differences that a man should be able to defend his home and provide for his home. I had a mice infestation in my house once, and I had a whole bunch of female cats, and they didn't kill anything. I brought a male cat in there, killed the animal. So the male nature and the female nature are not alike. We are complementary. And I always tell people in premarital counseling, you know what you are. You know you're marrying a little boy, right? No. See, all men are nothing but boys. We leave our mama's house as a boy and we go to the wife's house as a boy. So, mama, you nurture me. I will protect and provide for you. So it's a reciprocity. Now, some women have more of those characteristics than men. That these are not always hard, fast rules. And maybe a guy who's an alpha, who's a beta male, maybe he needs an alpha woman. Hey, it works out that way.
Okay. So what should femininity look like in a true woman?
Nurturing. Nice voice control. And I think you're wearing pearls, aren't you?
I am. I'm a pearl kind of girl.
I think pearls make women look very nice. And I just thought about it. I do. I like women with pearls. I think we should have a distinction as a woman. A woman should be distinctive. Now, we all have feminine, masculine characteristics in us.
Yeah.
But if you're a male, the male characteristics should dominate. You should, your mind has been created to think differently. And you should compliment. That doesn't mean you're superior. The worst part for people think first you are one, and this is how the Quran presents it. We created you of one soul, then made you male and female. See, so once I understand, I have the same soul you have. My soul is no different. But when on the physical role act, we obviously know we're physically different, and therefore, a true woman should be a nurturer, should be refined, and should be about the business of refine. You know, a woman, a real feminine woman can walk in a classroom of savages, boys, and calm them down. Yeah, because she said, "Mama, don't he's still there. He may be a savage." And I've seen female correctional officers, soft, small, and she could just stick her feminine powers and rule a cell block.
So do you believe that men respond differently to female leadership versus male leadership?
Absolutely. That's why the penitentiary is full of men who went to jail trying to prove something to a woman. Most all of the kingpins are nothing but mama's boys. And that's how Keisha is able to manipulate him to go out and rob a bank because he wants to prove something to her.
Now, I was in conversation the other day with a friend of mine, and he told me that out of a segment of people on death row, a segment of men on death row, all of those men had been raped by a female.
Yes. That is interesting, and I believe it. And I tell you something, that is not talked about. That's why I brought this book here.
One of the viewers in the audience in the side check says, "Oh, I have that book. Can you tell us a little bit more about that book? Just a little bit."
Yes. That book is the history of Caucasian women and their many being slave masters, but also I must tell you something that the book didn't tell you, and I plan to really research it. But it's really about there were many Caucasian women, or what we call white women, who had sex with African American men, and it didn't become a problem until we started getting freedom. And sometimes, well, I should say that the biggest and most popular genre in pornography is BBCs. So white people, period, are fascinated with the male sexual organ, African American sexual organ. So this dates all the way back to antebellum time. And there have been Caucasian men who took care of their babies that they knew that they didn't create. And in some cases, the term playboy came for the boy who was running on the plantation, whose job, their husband was either a homosexual or impotent, and they had these African American men to please their women. Now, another incident I have to talk about that came to mind. I'd often wondered about, well, I know one in my hometown. I know a very famous African American. I won't name him either. I asked him, let me see how this guy's material. This guy's he's famous. He's well-known African. So I asked him, as I always ask African, what's your family name? He told me his family. He said, but I'm adopted. He's a very light-skinned person. He said he's adopted. Then I looked at his daddy, and his daddy had blue eyes. So I had to use my Southern history background to find out, kind of put two and two together. This woman doesn't cover that in the book. those are large numbers of
Mhm.
African American children
Mhm.
that are the white woman's children. What she would do if they didn't commit kill them on abortion, she would leave the baby by the slop pen, the pig pen, and the grandmother would pick that baby up, and it would be a quiet secret, and they would call that baby an adopted baby, but actually it was that white woman's child. Now, I had an example in my hometown. I found out later. I asked my sister some maybe 50 years later. This lady I knew, and this Caucasian lady I knew, they kind of looked somewhat alike. And she just always complained about this black man beating the hell out of this woman. Now, I said to myself as a young boy, why is this white woman so concerned about this black man beating his wife? That's a shame, she said. It's a damn shame. Da, 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 yada, yada, yada. And so my sister told me before she passed, I said, what was that all about? She said, that was her mama.
Mm.
She said that lady had babies, many babies had been aborted because the man that was the father of the baby worked for this Caucasian. And he knew that his daughter had a thing for black men. So he wasn't going to kill him. He liked him.
Mm-hmm.
But he know the custom wasn't there. So he would give the baby, even decided he wasn't going to abort anymore. He just conscience got him. So he gave the baby to the grandmother. And the grandmother raised the baby. And this white woman would slip from time to time and visit her. We never knew the family secret. This is another thing about these secrets. But it turned out that she was. And sometimes that's why white women are so hostile to black men, because many of them have sexual attraction. And they rape black men.
Well, I will say this. The family relations, the sexual relations that occurred on the plantation were quite entangled. Sometimes the plantation owner, the husband, would have several women who were slaves, and he might prefer relations with those women, which created a jealousy amongst the women. And then he had children by those women. And then, like you denoted, there was an attraction to black men as well. And there were children made from those relations. And one of the most famous situations that we are familiar with was a presidential situation.
Right.
You know, and the access to that family pride, that family history. So if we just took a look at just the sexual relationships and the family relationships that were created on the plantation, we might untangle some of the shame and some of the pain and actually figure out.
Exactly.
Mhm.
And like I told, well, yeah, exactly. I'd like to continue this interview. We're getting to something. We have to. I hope I can come back again. That you invite me
Yeah.
back again.
I look forward to you coming back again, and we can pick up here. How about that?
Thank you. Thank you,
Thank you.
audience. Thank you, humble and noble audience, for listening to me. And I thank you. Y'all gave me too much energy. Y'all just pulling energy out of me. I'm gonna have a hard time going to sleep. But God bless y'all. Thank you. Thank you all.
Thank you so much. Thank you for coming. And thank you guys.